Could it go with that shuttle which is landed on the moon or something? And it's very well. It's got wonky apparently.
No, it hasn't really. It's only the solar panels that have been.
It's a question. We don't make it so.
Well, at least they're green. At least it's green. You're right.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January Planning Committee of Buckingham Town Council. May I wish you all a very happy new year. Before we start business, we do have a public speaker tonight. Bruce Cave is accompanied by Ben Chashaw from the Villiers Hotel. Bruce, I believe you're speaking.
Yes.
Yes, you have 3 minutes, so the floor is yours.
Would you like to stand over there so everybody can sort of see me properly rather than...
As you wish.
We're Active Hospitality, and we're an experienced hotel operators and owners that formerly owned, just for background, De Vere venues, De Vere hotels and resorts, village hotels, now made a Hotel du Bain. We created Active Hospitality to create a small hotel group around the M25, and we've developed out the Villiers Hotel over the last 7 years. We've owned it since 2017, and we are now one of only 2 hotels now in Buckingham, and I would say an essential facility to this market town. Villiers, as you probably know, is a 3-4-star hotel, and with our investment is now a boutique 4-star hotel. Has 2 buildings, first being Villiers Hotel on one side of Castle Street, which has the 49 bedrooms, restaurant, bar and afternoon tea lounge and reception. The second being the Old Town Hall on the other side of Castle Street, which also fronts the main high streets of Buckingham Town Centre, where we have a large ballroom and a series of meeting rooms and guest gym. Since acquiring Villiers in 2017, as I said, we've undertaken an extensive and rolling refurbishment of the hotel and the Old Town Hall. Following our initial purchase of the hotel, refurbishment of the front of house and total refurbishment of the Old Town Hall. And we have actually, in the last sort of 6-7 months, done a further £600,000 capital spend on refurbishing all our bedrooms and bathrooms. This brings our total investment to £5.5 million, which I hope you'll agree demonstrates that we are a major investor in Buckingham. We've got 66 employees on the payroll. And they're across housekeeping, reception, front of house, maintenance, comms, banqueting, restaurants, bars, kitchen staff, sales, and general manager. The number of people employed will increase as the hotel achieves higher occupancy, which is through us driving the bedrooms, but importantly, when the Old Town Hall starts to achieve the levels of occupancy that we hope that the ballroom will start to get with the conferencing and weddings, that should allow us to bring even more employment to Buckingham, and that is the reason that we've worked with you guys to remove all the cars from in front, put up the planting, and then so that was number 1 element. Number 2 element was putting the signage up so that when people are coming through the town, they say, "Oh gosh, there is a hotel there, and there is a ballroom, and there is conferencing and events." We think, just from talking with other businesses around Buckingham, that Buckingham has struggled since the COVID pandemic, with numerous businesses having closed their doors, such as Prezzo, Stoney House Boutique, just opposite us, Black Goo, the best.
Okay, you've got 30 seconds.
Right, okay. So let's just go to... so the issue that we have is small market towns, hotels, ballrooms, meeting spaces derive the majority of their business from the local leisure and corporate markets. And therefore, we need to be able to advertise that. The solution was for us twofold. 1, formalising and making tidy. 2nd was to erect discrete signage and lighting, informing the local businesses and Buckingham residents that we are there and ready for business. And that has been very successful over the last 6 months. We've improved our numbers in at over £100,000 during the course of last year, 3 to 6 months. And we go into this year with £100,000 on the books.
If we could stop you there, but please stay there, because I'm going to throw the floor
yes.
open to questions for Councillor O'Donnell, who has one point.
It's good to hear that you spent about 5 million investment in there. What's the disabled toilet situation like now?
Disabled toilet in the old town hall,
No, in the main hotel.
in the main hotel. There is no disabled toilet within the main hotel other than within the ladies where you can go straight through, but no, there is not as yet a disabled toilet.
Is that going to be something that you're going to look into? Because
Yes,
it's been
we're at the moment looking at where it can go. And we haven't quite worked that out as yet.
it's been an issue for a number of years. We had a Christmas dinner, the town council one many years ago. And one of our ex-councillors, she had to be shown to a downstairs bedroom, a guest room, to use the toilets in there, which wasn't really
Yes, number one
satisfactory.
that has
Yeah.
So because we've got the disabled toilets within the bedrooms.
Yeah.
We just haven't worked out how to get
Restaurant.
it in the restaurant area.
Yeah.
Because the men's leads up a series of stairs, so we haven't been able to do it there. The women's, you can technically get in there.
Very narrow though.
It's too, in
Yeah.
my view, it's too narrow.
Yeah.
So we've got to try and work that out.
Are you actively looking at that?
We are actively looking at it, but I haven't yet got a solution to it.
Okay.
And we will, as soon as we have, try and work that through.
Let us know. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Ralph?
Thank you. It's a relatively minor point, but as you're here,
Yes.
there used to be two benches out the front of the old town hall.
Yes.
They seem to have
They have
disappeared.
disappeared.
Are they going to reappear?
They're not going to reappear because I have too many drunks vandalising the front of my old town hall whenever they're out there. I actually own that section of the land that they're on.
Yes.
Obviously, if one put them there, it affects councils or Aylesbury councils. But my big problem is the amount of vandalism that comes every time those are out there. It seems to congregate for quite a number of boys and girls that want to do damage to my property in particular.
The reason I asked, it has been mentioned that when during the day, some older people walk into town, they find it a perfect place to stop, rest, and then move on. Whilst I appreciate what you're saying as well, so there's a bit of a dichotomy there.
There is. I mean, we would love to have a whole load of it. In fact, we'd love to have more benching out there because it brings life to the place. But it's just a nightmare in the evenings.
Yeah.
At night time.
Yeah, thank you for responding.
So
Councillor Hart?
Picking up on the theme from Councillor O'Donoghue, is that once upon a time, the council was a regular user of the ballroom. We had several comedy nights there. I don't know if this happened within real time. Yeah. But in the end, we decided that we had to leave that venue, even though we liked the venue a lot, grand, beautiful ballroom. And the reason being is that there's no accessible customer lift. People who can't get up the very grand stairs, but there's no way to get up those stairs if you have a mobility issue.
yes,
And I would imagine that isn't just something for us, it'll be people hiring it for weddings and so on, because weddings often include maybe relatives who, or the couple themselves, who have an issue with mobility. Within your £5 million investment, did you look at installing a lift?
yes,
Accessible for people.
we
to get
did,
up?
and very unfortunately, the sheer amount of cost and whether or not we would get planning, because obviously it's a listed building, you'd have to come straight up that section of the staircase that goes up. We'd have to put something straight in the middle. That's the only place you could do it, because the only other place that we actually have a lift is from the kitchen through to
We know about that.
but of course that has access from where Domino's is, and actually it's a horrible place, and also you can't get somebody accessibly up there because of the slope, the slope of the unit that goes down towards the Domino's.
Yeah.
Plus, I can't get access from inside to that particular lift, and the only place we can do it is where one has the coat area. Not that that matters, but it would be straight up through there, and it would be 300,000–400,000 pounds for one lift.
It's a grade one listed building, isn't it? Is it?
No, it's grade two.
Grade two.
Grade two star.
Grade two star. Oh, right.
So
you're well appraised of grade two star regulations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
sadly, I mean, I want to have lifts everywhere I can be as a hotelier, and in my other hotels, I have all the requisite lifts. Villiers has always been the dichotomy for me. It's two different units, and it's even on the ground floor there's a ground and then an upper ground. It's quite a difficult difficult one, and it's quite difficult to justify £300,000 or £400,000 on creating a concrete block, and then how do you work that into the aesthetic of the wonderful spiraling staircases?
The stair lift wouldn't work.
No.
It was
I don't think it would.
It looked into, wasn't it?
I think it put too many people off from just aesthetically a stair lift.
Okay.
Councillor Mordew.
Oh, yes. I think there's an American phrase about don't ask permission, just seek forgiveness. And I just wondered, in terms of the retrospective nature of this application for the outside, what was your thinking? Why did you think I'll do it first and then I'll ask for permission if I later?
Because I found, having spoken to the last two owners of Villiers, that it's very, very difficult to get any kind of planning permission from the Old Town Hall over the last 15–20 years. And I was in a financial position after COVID, having not laid off anybody across my 4 hotels, costing me millions of pounds, that I was starting to run out of money. And I needed to get my hotels going. And the one element of Villiers that just won't get going is the Old Town Hall, because actually nobody seems to know about it. Marriott did a research document on the most effective advertising in the modern world, and very surprisingly, what came back was signage on the actual unit itself.
Yeah.
As opposed to all digital that we all think is going absolutely fantastically, and that's all you do, and everybody rushes to you. It's not the case. And what has been really interesting is, so yes, we were naughty in terms of, I did it straight away, but I did it for good financial reasons, which was, I've spent an absolute fortune on supporting all of my businesses. I'm running out of time to actually get money back with bankers wanting their interest and amortizations and all of that sort of jazz, as you can imagine. And it's been a hard time for the hoteliers post-COVID.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, that is the end of the public session time. Mr. Kay, thank you very much for telling us about all your plan.
Thank you for allowing us the time.
You have 2 applications here tonight, and with
Yes.
members' permission, what we'll do is we'll bring forward the 2 applications together, so they'll start the planning.
Is that okay?
You're welcome to stay and listen, but you're welcome to speak
Stay and
also.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you very much.
So could we have an agreement for members that we do that?
Yeah.
Once we've done just the formal business. Thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, we start off then. Paula, apologies for absence.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Davies, Councillor Schaefer, Councillor Try and Mrs Conley.
Thank you very much. We'll accept those.
Yep.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Receive declarations of any personal or prejudicial interest under consideration of this agenda.
Just not the usual one.
Councillor Stutchbury, as usual, declarations because he serves on the area planning committee. Thank you. Anyone else? No. Minutes of the 18th of December meeting will be presented at the next meeting, which is on February the 5th. Item 4, Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, Vale of Aylesbury Plan, Buckinghamshire Local Plan. I have had a chat with Louise this afternoon about the next Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan working groups. We are changing the dates to Mondays because staff can't do Thursdays now. And Anthony and I approved that change. So I hope that will fit in with all members who want to attend that. There'll still be 10:30 in the morning. Our next event, though, will be the Developers Roadshow that will present possible developers, what our plans are, much of the same we did with the landowners and agents about a month ago. It's very successful public consultations. Some of them were pop-up stalls, others were here in the community centre, and got a lot of very, very good feedback. And Homer O'Neill, who are our consultants, were very surprised just how much good stuff was given to them. Robin first, then John.
Well, firstly, Chairman, thank you yourself and Anthony and the staff for trying to put into this, which has been quite phenomenal, and getting to where we are. And I think perhaps Mondays is probably seems logically easier. It's just the long day for yourself and the members of staff, which I recognise. But I presume you will try. Isn't the planning meeting that night, is it, Chairman? So
Mostly not. No.
mostly not. So in which case it won't be a long day in the sense for you to do all day without and planning. Probably seems a bit too much for me. That's saying the man has been out at meetings all day, but that's because I'm probably not right in the head, am I? But yeah, thank you for that, and I look forward to being it. Have we had a reasonable response from the developers to respond, or are they? Is there not been much come in yet, or do you not know?
Well, no, that's what the Developers Roadshow will be for, to get it from the developers.
Have we had any early signs of interest in the event, which is usually a good sign of opinion?
I'm not sure, but the other thing I should mention, Buckinghamshire Council has not yet responded to our scenarios.
So they don't respond very often.
No, we're still waiting.
I write them constantly.
Louise has spoken to them. They said it is coming, but they blame Christmas and New Year.
I mean, I've got the same problem.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, it's on the note of the Developers Roadshow, because obviously the working groups are, I mean, I suppose they're open to other people, but generally not, but the roadshow is, and when we had the session just after the Christmas parade, people were up, one person was going to ask me, like, when does that happen? So I went immediately went on the net, and that date wasn't up there. So what I wanted is assurance that that date now will be on the website, so developers can see it.
Yep.
It is.
I think that's the plan, yes. Again, I'd have to check with Louise.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether, Catherine, have you heard?
I don't have a handle on the
No,
website
okay,
at all.
all right.
Okay.
I just say it's very important, it's on the website.
So if there's no other matters there, we've already agreed that we'll hold two Villiers planning applications together for this supply bills. So we move to planning applications, item 5. Just first of all, for members' information, next scheduled Buckinghamshire Council North Buckinghamshire Planning Area Committee meetings are Wednesday, 17th of January, 14th of February, and strategic sites are on Thursday, the 18th of January and 15th of February. We have no information yet if there's any Buckingham matters involved. So, first of all, items 1, 2 and 3, the following 3 applications may be considered together. This is 3 Castle Street, Villiers Hotel. We have heard obviously from Mr. Cave tonight about their plans, but this first of all is to do with the parking. There is a management system for 2 car parks consisting of AMPR cameras, camera cabinets, 11 non-illuminated signs, displays, and of course these all come under listed building application for 7 signs on the walls of the building. We have asked before for more information on the actual signage, and again the agent has only supplied us with a broad view of the sign. They're too small to have any detail on to give us what we wanted. The arboricultural department wants more information on how the trees are going to be protected, particularly those where there's going to be signs put in with concrete bases and possible interference of roots. So they want more information on that because they're in the conservation area. And on the planning portal, there is no heritage comment yet on this. So at the moment, we do lack adequate information, as our planning clerk has told us. What the members feel about this?
Make the change.
Should we start with Buckingham Society? Anthony, I noticed Roger hasn't made it tonight, but.
No. I think depending on what the size of the signs are, there's no particular concern, because obviously there is discrete signage around the site already, and if it's similar to that, whether all of it is visible usefully from the road so that it's very clear what is happening when somebody actually drives up to it, rather than them having to stop or find it difficult to find the information quickly, because it's very much a pinch point around there. But apart from that, on these specific 3 items, they have no particular grumbles, shall we say.
Thank you. Jane?
No, well, if I say that the thing that you made the point about the pinch point, it is that when you're coming on that road, you need the best possible signage, because for many years I drove straight past the Villiers car park sign. I've got no idea what the signs are, how it's going to look yet. So I just reserve my thoughts, really.
Thank you. John?
I think, as always, we trust the Heritage Buildings Officer to look at this in some detail. And I assume that the developer will want to provide that level of detail to the Heritage Buildings Officer, because he or she won't want to make a decision without that level of detail. But my view here is that in principle it seems like a good idea, and I've parked there a couple of times in my life, and having it under ANPR, so long as people understand that's how it works. And other hotel car parks work in a similar way. I would propose that, subject to the HBO approval, we register no objections.
Okay, could I modify that slightly, the objection subject to the arboriculturist being happy, and also subject to Heritage Officer's comments?
Yeah.
Someone like to second that? Thank you. Do you want to speak on it, Lucy, or just second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Right, in that case, no one else anything to add? So what we have on the table is we have no objection to this, subject to the arboriculturist being satisfied, and also the comments from Heritage. All those in favour? Thank you. We're taking this as all 3, by the way.
Yeah.
Which includes the list. That one's done. So the other one is item numbers 5 and 6, which again will be taken together. This is the Villiers Conference Centre, the Old Town Hall in the Market Square. Listed building consent for the installation of illuminated fascia signage, window canopies, and external lighting on the Old Town Hall. As you all know, this is grade 2 star. The frontage is 1783 Flemish brickwork. We first reported to enforcement that internally illuminated signage had been erected in June 2023. It's only just come before us tonight. Members should be aware that in 2014 a similar application was made, but was withdrawn by the then Villiers management after negative English Heritage comments. English Heritage, for some reason, haven't commented on the application this time. Lucy?
Just obviously, I know that we don't particularly like retrospective applications, but again, I appreciate your honesty in answering our questions earlier, and I do also understand that it is easier to seek forgiveness than ask permission sometimes. The signage, the illuminated signage itself, I have less of an issue with, because I can see how, if you're driving through the town, especially at night, that would be a really key form of advertising, and that may help. I think the positive impact it would have on increasing your business possibly outweighs maybe the less than aesthetic look of the town hall, and it's not too much of an issue in the daytime. The issue I have is with the blue canopies. I think personally, from an aesthetic point of view, they make the building look quite tacky, and I don't see any practical reason for them being there. I think, if I were to get married in front of that building, I wouldn't want them there. I don't think they add anything to the building. I don't think they add anything to increasing business revenue or advertising in that sense. And my other issue is with the uplighters, just on a kind of like a light pollution point of view. But that's my opinion on the 3 items.
Thank you, Lucy. Anthony, Buckingham Society.
Buckingham Society are not happy with this. They are concerned that the placing of the words without permission on a listed building sets a pretty bad precedent, because anybody can now in the area say, oh well, the Villiers Hotel have got permission, so why shouldn't I have what I want? And that may be again contrary to various things. Very concerned that holes are drilled in a historic building, but that's as it may be. And certainly in terms of light pollution and the canopies, I'm completely with Councillor Draper on that.
Thank you. I think it's worth pointing out, as Catherine has said in her report to us, that internally illuminated signage is not permitted in the conservation area. So we would automatically be objecting to the illumination of the signage. Catherine also points out blue canopies can only be there for decoration because the building is north facing, so there's no sunshine that they're protecting the interior from. It's also noted that the sign has gone up on the end of the building, a stone sign, I think it is, which could be a distraction to drivers turning into Castle Street. And then finally, the up and down lighting link, number of people I know have expressed concern about that. So, anyone else like to add anything on this? John?
I think I'd say, obviously, I listened carefully to the points made about the need to make it clear to people in the town and passing through that there is such a ballroom facility and the hotel and everything else. I get all of that. But our concern as a town council is with the whole ambience and the look of the whole town. And also that there are planning regulations already in place. So to allow this means we then have to allow lots of other things as well, which we don't want because it's against the design code for the town centre, which we have to look after. So I have no option other than to object to this. It simply lies in the face of what the rules are, rules that are well known, with any fairly cursory look at any sort of planning guidelines. So
Thank you.
I have to object.
Jane,
Well, I mean, I'm new on this committee and I can see I'm hesitating between hearing things that are aesthetic views, which I also agree with, and things that are to do with the design code. But I do like the writing. I mean, I think it actually makes the top of the town look almost cool. If that's the phrase I'm for. But again, that's the aesthetics on my part. So I like the fact that it's got the wording up there. I was out there the other night looking and there was the White Hart. It's got a whole lot of lighting up there, sort of thing. So actually the Villiers Hotel, ballroom, whatever it is, boutique thing, actually is quite discreet. It's big, but it's quite discreet. So I'm not quite so anti the lit writing. Then, if we've said before that it's not allowed, I think that was to do with neon signs, and for heaven's sake, they haven't inflicted neon signs on us. So I'm more in favour of the writing and and a bit of backlighting, maybe not quite so much. The uplighters and the blue canopies are I don't know what they were thinking about, but that's an aesthetic assessment, I suspect.
Thank you. Anyone else? No,
Sorry, just one thought. I don't know, this, again, I'm quite new to the council, so I don't know how practical this would be, but would there be an option to have a slightly dimmer light, or is it kind of a blanket, illuminated signage?
Blanket up under the conservation area. That's nationally, it's not.
Yeah, that's what I was just mentioning.
Yeah, thank you. In that case, having heard everything, I'm going to make a proposal, which is a somewhat pragmatic solution, that we do agree to the lettering, as we've heard, but it has to be non-illuminated. You have to bear in mind, this is one of the most significant historic buildings in Buckingham. It dominates the whole of the High Street and Market Hill. It is great 2-star listed. But we would, in a trade-off, we'd say we don't want that illuminated. We do not want the blue canopies, which are out of keeping with the 18th century building, and we do not want the up and down lights. And the other thing is the sign on the corner. We have concern about that for traffic reasons, but at the moment there's no report from Highways on it, so we would want Highways comment on that. But that would be my proposal. Seconded by Anthony. So is that all clear, Catherine? So all those in favour? Thank you. That's.
I think I'm abstaining, actually.
Yeah, take it out if we could see.
Yeah. I didn't see you, it's John Burton, I can't see.
Yeah, on this, yeah. And anyone against? And those abstaining? 2, that's Robin and Jane. Thank you very much. Good. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you very much for considering everything.
Yeah. So maybe we wish you all the best with the future of the village. We are behind you.
Yes.
As one of our town's finest going concerns. And,
Thank you.
please. And hopefully when you've got more news on internal changes, particularly about accessibility,
So we'll let you know.
please, we're looking forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.
All right, cheerio, everybody. Thank you for hearing us.
Right, the next item is item 4, Chandos Road Building, part of the University of Buckingham. This is an application prior approval notice, so it's a sort of toe in the water for the extension and alterations to the Chandos Road Building. You'll all know that this building was historically it was a foundry, and those of you who don't know, they built some of the first ever steam cars produced in the world. Victoria and Prince Albert actually drove one for a few days. They then went on to become the milk factory, a cannery producing tinned milk. And more recently, it's been part of lecture theatre and laboratories for the university, and until recently film place as well. So what they're proposing is at the back of the building, in that corner that nobody can see from the road, to make changes there. Under Schedule 2, Part 7 of the Country Planning Act. You've all seen Catherine's report. Anyone like to speak on this? Perhaps Buckingham Society, we could put on the spot again.
Perfectly happy with it, perfectly happy with it, think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Everyone's nodding furiously no.
No objection to it.
Fine, in that case, I propose that we no objections to make on this. All those in favour? Sorry, it's second, I apologise, Anthony, secondly. All those in favour? That's it. Everyone except Robin. Thank you. Item 7 is 122 Morton Road, a householder application for first floor side and rear extension, alterations to front elevation and render to the whole dwelling. The planning notices have been up since the 5th of December. There's been no objections to it, and as Catherine said, there's nothing that we really need to be concerned about. Anyone wish to speak on that? No, in that case, John?
I was going to say it's a very ugly house, isn't it? I think it's a good thing, frankly. I hate pebble dash generally.
Yeah.
So I think it's not pebble dash.
I'm sure the applicant will be very grateful for that. So I propose no comment to that. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Everyone?
No objection.
Sorry, no objection. Yeah, did I say no comment? We have a comment. No objection. Thank you. Then we're back to an old friend, number 8, which is 31 Highlands Road, householder application for raising the roof, in addition of first floor to form 1.5 half-storey dwellings. You'll notice it's got a fairly checkered history. It has been through the mill, this application. It was refused. They went to appeal. They lost the appeal. And at the same time that was happening, they then built in front of it. They stripped all the vegetation out, built a high wall with lattice fencing in it, which again has now been refused by the local planning authority as materially harming the character and appearance of the local area. And they've now come back, whilst that has been appealed, that appeal is actually in process. And Kathleen told us this afternoon, we weren't actually notified about this appeal, so, which we should have been as a statutory part of the planning system, so we
The
will.
fact that we have denounced the board to enforcement and caused an enforcement case. So they had to have an application, and now they've been refused and they're appealing it. But no, we checked the possible sources of information on appeals are Claire's email, Bethany's email, or direct to me, and none of us had anything. It was at the end of October. And so we long missed any opportunity for additional comments and members of wish to make any.
But when we reply to this, we'll strongly make the case that we were not involved, where we should have been. As Kathleen said, we instigated this with enforcement.
Yeah.
So that's jumping ahead anyway. So what they've come back with a slightly lower roof line, but everything else still has very much the same objections for which it was previously refused. Does anyone want to talk on this? We can start with Buckingham Society. How do you anything?
The main comment was that it seemed the fenestration seemed somewhat excessive. It seems to be a whole world of windows aesthetically, but whether that's a planning reason or not, it's for others to decide. But certainly they didn't like it.
If you remember, in the first instance, when we had no objection to it, it's because most of what they were doing would be hidden by the vegetation in front, the plane trees and hedges, etc., which have all gone. So whatever they do now can be an absolutely plain view, particularly opposite the school entrance. So if no one else wants to speak, I shall propose that we object to this on the same grounds that we objected to the previous application, seconded by Andy and Anthony. All those in favour? That's everyone except Robin. Thank you, Steve. They're doing well. Let's keep it going. Right, this is item 9. This is Wells Street Centre. It's a change of use of the rear part of the building from the day centre to the sixth form school for Thursdown. They're going to move their sixth form from Winslow to here, so it will include external alterations comprising new ramped entrance, replacement front door, removal of the existing vehicular access gates, new vehicles and pedestrian gates, and the provision of 2 storage sheds and a polytunnel. There will be 15 parking spaces for this. There will be 15 staff and 40 pupils. Highways at the moment, whilst not objecting, are saying they can't approve it until there's more information. They say, due to the specialist and bespoke nature of the existing site, I'd like to request the applicant provides a full breakdown of the trip generation, both uses, in a transport statement. And that's for uses for the continued use of the day centre and for the sixth form. Regarding access, he says, after assessing the site, I'm satisfied that the level of visibility will be okay. And this means that cars can pass each other on the access road. Before finalising acceptance of the access arrangements, I'll need to know the level of vehicular movements expected to the site. Parking, they want to make sure that the parking standards are those of Buckinghamshire Council now, which is 2.8 metre by 5 metres wide, and that 2 electric vehicle charging points must be implemented within that. They also ask additional parking for students. I'd like the applicant to justify the level of parking that's being provided. Further details how this new sixth form would accommodate parking for students who may live in Buckingham as opposed to Winslow. Finally, they want further information on how deliveries and refuse collection will work for the new sixth form. I think that the most obvious question here is, will pupils require parking? Right.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm in support of this. I think it's very good that the Thursdown School are moving their sixth form here. I would question though about from my time in school, and that was granted some years ago, probably about coming up to 10 years ago. In my day, not many students used their own car, or from my time in sixth form that I spent there, not many people use their own car. Not only that, was a lot of the people from my friend's experience at the First House School when he went through education there, was that everyone took taxis and also minibuses. So it was a short-term stay kind of thing. Not many people, student-wise, had their own transport, and plus, with car prices nowadays, it wouldn't surprise me if anyone can afford a car for at least a good 4 years if they're starting life. Anyway, but I'm in support of this application.
Thank you, Lisa. Then Lucy.
Again, yeah, just to reiterate what Ryan said, I think it's fantastic. I think it's really great that we're getting more SEND resources in Buckingham. My godson currently goes to Fursdown. It changed his life going from mainstream school into Fursdown. And as Ryan said, they do mainly get taxis. So I think it would be interesting to possibly ask if they will have a sort of a short stay bay, like a pick up and drop off point for students that are getting sort of paid taxis there. The only other thing I was going to ask about, obviously it's in a flood zone. Not necessarily for this planning application, but can we use this new development as kind of further motivation to ask Bucks Council to maybe look at our flooding issues slightly more seriously when considering other planning applications that don't necessarily have drainage?
Right. Can I just ask Catherine about that? Would that be?
There is a flood risk assessment with the papers, and it is a thorough one.
Right.
So they are aware that it floods.
So that probably answers your question.
It's more, obviously, that's a current assessment. As
I do believe we can say, in light of the nature of the people now using it.
Yeah, and with,
you know, because while they've got 3 or 4 clients in the adult learning sector, they're at the street end, but we're talking younger people, possibly with less abilities, mobility-wise, that kind of thing.
Who will also be relying on that as a Monday to Friday centre. So if it's out of action due to flooding, then that's going to have possibly a greater impact on them and their kind of day-to-day education.
The specialist equipment and what have you.
Yeah.
To bring forward. So yes, we will certainly mention that.
Yeah, the National Flood Strategy does specifically say that, you know, people who are vulnerable should not be put at risk.
We've argued about people before though, haven't we?
Yeah, Thank you, Lucy. Right, and in that case, no one else wishes to speak. I would propose that we approve the application subject to highways satisfactions being met. Would it be apposite to put in that we thank Buckinghamshire Council for thinking of Buckingham in providing this for the Fursdown sixth one?
I think I should have done that when you were asking consultation.
Right. Okay. Well,
I think we have positively responded, or intend to positively respond to Fursdown School itself about them bringing it here.
Right.
I don't think we've done anything directly to the county council, but I may be wrong.
Can I just say that she has, the town clerk is doing a moment to what the county council is Robin proposed it.
Okay, fine, thank you then. That's taken care of. So that's very simple then. The proposal is that we approve the application subject to highways satisfaction.
Yeah.
Anthony, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Robin abstaining. I know, Robin, that's one that's very close to your heart as well. So do you want to say a quick word?
Yeah, I'd just say not on planning, but I understand that the decision notice went out, so it's working its way through. And when the decision notice went out, Catherine and I spoke about it on the same day, didn't we? And the plan which you've seen tonight and determined. So they are progressing this, and not that it's a planning issue, so I will comment on it. There is a huge problem with special education need in Buckinghamshire, and there's a huge problem in people being able to stay on sixth form. So as one who's questioned them for several years about special educational need and provision, it would be immensely childish to say other than that this is the right direction, and we'll wait to see what the local authority does in determining it.
Thank you. It's just worth pointing out that no planning notice has gone up yet, so neighbours may not yet know of this. And again, we'll put our normal statutory declaration.
My parents lived down Wells Street and they had a survey form thing sent out to them. So I imagine to ask their opinions on what would happen. So I know it's not the same as the yellow notice, but I think the neighbours are aware.
Thank you.
Everyone on Wells Street's been told.
Right. And then the final application tonight, 40 Western Avenue, household application for a single-storey rear extension. You've seen Catherine's report. There's no problems that come up. Neighbours have not yet been made aware of it by a planning notice. So I propose that, unless anyone has a comment, no, I propose then that we approve that subject to neighbours' comments in the future. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? That's everyone bar Robin. Thank you. Well done. That must be a record for our plan. You notice there are 5 approved applications there, all of which we supported or had no objections to. You want any comments on those? No, thank you. Item 7, Buckinghamshire Council committee meetings. 2 North Bucks area ones with no Buckingham applications in November and December, and strategic sites. The November one was cancelled and the December one, no Buckingham application. That brings us on to the Growth of Infrastructure and Housing Select Committee meeting of the 23rd of November. You will see in the pack the written responses to our questions. The principal question being the one about whether the system of referral to area committees is to continue. There are 150 to 180 Buckingham applications a year, some of which we or our Shire councillors have called in, and yet none of them have been judged deserving of a public airing since February of 2020. Councillor Strachan's reply is there in writing. What isn't shown is what he actually said at the committee, and I'm going to quote verbatim. Councillor Strachan is the Cabinet Member for Planning and Regeneration, and he said that less than 3% of plans get called in, so 97% are decided by delegated authority. There must be material planning considerations, so you can't just call it in because you think there should be a public meeting rather than a meeting of officers. It costs money to hold committees, and we have a duty to make sure we don't waste council money. My answer to Buckingham, and I don't know if they're doing this, is that they're calling in applications to committee just because they can. That will not create those applications going before committee, because there'll always be a discussion between senior officers and chairman over whether it's worth bringing an item to committee. There has to be material planning reason. Now, I think most of us who heard that, particularly myself and Catherine, were a bit astonished at the fact that, we have 2 professional planning officers up here. A lot of us who are on the planning committee have been doing this for many, many years, and we know our subject well. I just find it really, really surprising that Councillor Strachan made that comment. And I think what we should do as a committee is ask for evidence of non-material planning reasons. That they've turned down. We've got a whole list of them.
Second that, Chairman.
Cesspit Mallard Way, non-conforming with the Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, whole fiasco over the Oddfellows Hall in Wells Street, all of which we asked to be called in because of our very, very material concerns, planning concerns. I'm not making that present moment. I'm just saying that's what I would like to do. We'd like Ryan to start holding the ball first, and then Robin, then Lucy.
Well, it was a surprising response. Me personally, I think if it's a question, Councillor Strachan is questioning our competency, then we should invite him to a planning meeting, if you should so to attend. Mr. Strachan, the floor is all yours now. But I definitely would invite Councillor Strachan to come down and view one of these meetings, as we have very fine staff and very fine councillors who who can efficiently do the planning committees and, planning things like that. So, yeah, Robin.
Yeah, being as the agenda's been altered tonight, there isn't anything to Buckinghamshire Council today, which I don't know when we took that decision. It's not on the agenda.
Tell you that because we were originally going to be after an interim meeting, the town clerk has decided that when we're second meeting of the night, we will keep it to the barest necessities. And this is not one of the barest necessities, but I got it in anyway.
No, it's very curious, but they can change.
Next meeting is a standalone meeting, and you will have the full set of rolling lists and everything.
I thought this was a standalone meeting, never mind. Anyway.
Only because interim have no business to.
Okay, jolly do. Anyway, would say I was present at the meeting. And if you listen to the spoken word against the written word, they're not identical. What's in the written response is different to what's in the spoken response. Now, I sit and listen to you debate your planning applications, and you do come up with planning reasons about why you object to stuff. And I do find it curious that that a cabinet member would presume without evidence, because there is no evidence, that you don't consider the applications, considering new councillors tonight have both been involved in the thing, and most of what they've said has been planning. Been on the council longer, been the same. So I think how we approach this, because if that is the mindset of the cabinet member when we have it, it probably is unsurprising that when we, though we won't have influence over the offices in that way, it gives the impression that, like the chairman mentioned, putting a septic tank in the middle of a housing estate, and doesn't go to committee. I couldn't think of anything more unsavoury and unfavourable to the residents, and that went through, and by the chairman and vice chairman's approval, even though it went to call in. Getting a call in Buckingham seems to be of a plan application, seems to be a problematic and difficult thing to do. And I say that attending a meeting only recently with a councillor here who sits here usually we attended a meeting in Winslow, and that application went to committee. 3 members called it in. So I'm not sure quite what's going on down in Buckinghamshire in relation to Buckingham. I hope we're not falling back into the trap that we had some time back with the district council, where the district council would not always see eye to eye with us. And so we do need to find a way through this. The cabinet members appointed, so that's not, it's appointed by the leader of the council. So we do need to find a problematic way through this. And I would suggest that we ask for evidence to be produced, as was suggested, on times that planning reasons wasn't presented, and that we wrote in with no planning reasons. Now, officers will determine planning reasons slightly different to what we do, because they're officers, and they have all the training in the welfare, and they have to do it against the HELIA council policy, and it would appear the policy which seems to be evolving in not calling applications into committee in Buckingham. I think there's a whole raft of things around here that we need to clarify.
That proposal,
it isn't satisfactory. I think the cabinet member misspoke would be the phrase that I would use. And he would, on reflection, wish to reconsider those thoughts. I don't think he would deliberately set out to be provocative in that way about other elected members. So we treated that he misspoke, and we would like him to work with us to an understanding of how we can get to that. Accusing someone of doing something isn't the way to start. I think we need to, because he is the cabinet member, he's appointed by the leader of the council. and we do need to have a working relationship with him. So where we do, I'd say we believe you misspoke on the basis that the evidence that we could present, that we always give planning reasons, whether your officers determine them planning reasons to be in conformity with the policies of the council, that is a reasonable judgment. And in some cases, our planning reasons have been identical.
We'd
Well,
like to
your
see
planning
them.
reasons, they are planning reasons. I don't take part, but you've given reasons which have been in conformity with the decisions of the council. So it isn't that you just do things because you can. In fact, you do things because you can because you're elected to do them. And that's why you're here on the same basis for an election, the same basis that anyone's elected to Buckinghamshire Council. And your views are the community views as a council. And I was talking as in the third person. And I think we do need to address this.
Yeah.
We do need to nip this in the bud before it becomes a commonality and a way of us communicating to, but that's not good for Buckingham. It's not good.
Robin, thank you. That's 3 minutes.
So I second the proposal.
Well, it's actually a proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, are you quite clear about what Robin?
I didn't have a proposal, I just had it as.
Well, I rambled on somewhat, so I enjoyed it.
Why not let the chairman, let the chairman phrase it, because I'm sure that we're all thinking in the same
Well, I can do it
direction.
all again, Jane.
It's like the same as Mark's proposal.
It's very similar.
Yeah,
Very similar. It was longer.
I think your thing about we believe the chairman
Misspoke.
Yeah.
I think they're the words we use.
misspoke and we asked for evidence of non-material planning reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put forward by Buckingham.
That's not provocative then, is it?
No, and then
No.
we can then list specific things. For example, the best pit in Mallard Way, which is against national planning law.
Exactly.
Non-conforming with parts of the Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, which have
Yeah.
already been tested and in our favour at ministerial level. Also the point that is he referring to Shire members as well as Buckingham Town Councillors when he says my answer to Buckingham, he didn't say Buckingham Town Council.
Yeah.
So is he treating Shire members the same? And also we have this situation where we did have a call in by 3 members in line with the constitution, which they turned down, which so there's another argument there, but basically this is, before I go on, could I have a second for that?
Yeah, everybody.
Lisa, thank you very much. Lucy.
It was, I think what I wanted to say was probably quite similar to what Robin said, but I had to type it as I thought, otherwise I was going to forget it. But I thought that what Councillor Strachan misspoke was very unprofessional, not only gave a poor view of Buckingham Town Council Planning Committee, because it gave the impression that we were just calling things in willy-nilly rather than giving them due consideration, but it also gave a poor impression of the Shire Council as an organisation that is meant to be listening to its town councils to get a sort of a ground view of what's going on, obviously.
The town and parish charter.
Yeah.
Which they drew up.
We are meant to be working hand in hand with them, but it feels from those comments as though we're being treated as a nuisance rather than a valid planning opinion. And I would not only suggest, again, this is where it's quite simple, what Robin was saying a few marks, that we ask for more detailed responses over why our previous callings haven't been going to public meetings, but also for maybe not for an apology, because that might be quite provocative.
Thank you.
But it's very clear that Councillor Strachan realised that he had misspoken because the written response was very different to what was said
That's a very
on
good point,
the
Lucy.
video.
Very good point. We might note that, perhaps, Robin, that the written
Yeah.
response
That's what I
is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I like the way you put
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Lucy. John.
I agree with all that's been said so far, and I think there were some pertinent questions to ask. But I've also had another question, which is basically what is the difference that makes the difference between a request for a call-in that is accepted and a request for a call-in that is not accepted? And I would ask them to inquire of their officers to do an analysis of the call-ins from a parish or town council that have been accepted, and what were the particular features of those call-ins that meant that they were successful in actually getting a meeting to discuss it. We would be keen to know what those factors are.
Yeah.
And they can do that analysis on our behalf, or on behalf of democracy, shall we say, in the Shire Council, generally, because we want to know what we're meant to be doing. And only they can tell us that. So let's find out.
Yeah.
Oh, educated.
Well, yes, I'm slightly, I don't want us to look like fools. I don't want us to go, well, actually, we don't know, tell us. So I wouldn't go quite that far. I think just produce our evidence as to when we've done it and things haven't, what are you talking about?
There will be a follow-up, obviously.
There will be a follow-up, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Robin,
would
you
disagree on that.
speak again?
Yeah, just briefly, I think one of the things we have to do is try to get forward with this, and I think changing the phraseology from Lucy around the misspoke thing and the way we do things the way forward. I think what we have to do then is we are, as the chairman spoke at the beginning of the meeting about the dates for the Buckingham Neighbourhood Development Plan. I think it's truly important that the cabinet member has an understanding of the gravity and the work gone into that and what's being planned. So I think a way forward that we invite the cabinet member to come and partake in the consultation for the Buckingham Neighbourhood Development Plan. That would give us an opportunity to talk to him face to face. It gives us an opportunity to cut over many things without and it would also give him an opportunity of the work that both the chair and the deputy chair and the officers have done to get us to this point. And then maybe their mindset might change somewhat, because that shows, and Buckingham is going to be a major part in the development. And I sat in a Growth and Infrastructure Committee because I happened to be there one day. Don't know why. And sometimes, but I did know why I was there, but for a very good reason. But we did hear that 68% of all the development is likely to be in the north of the Buckinghamshire. So to discount that and with a big player in that and not to get a full understanding, won't be good for Buckinghamshire, won't be good for Buckingham, and definitely won't be good for the residents. So I think we need to get him to be an active player, if only an observer.
Well, you can hear Connie, you can hear what people have to say.
And then that builds relationships.
So we end the then what we're saying with an invitation.
Yeah, that builds relationships.
I'm just going to say, is Councillor Strachan though? Is he strategic? Sites. Does he also look at all?
No, just like never Councillor Strachan is. Councillor Strachan is the cabinet member.
Yeah,
He doesn't make planning decisions.
No, but I just was wondering whether he was chair the strategic.
No, he isn't chair of anything.
No, okay.
No, he takes no chair.
Who chairs the strategic?
He was
sites?
Ralph back, I was with him earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, he wasn't chair. What gets confused between a select committee operation where he's called in. The reason he was there at the select committee because he had an agenda on there to do with the Buckinghamshire Plan.
Yeah.
And he was there to answer questions to the members of the select committee around the Buckinghamshire Plan, the growth, his budget and his responsibilities. He was not chairing the meeting. Mr. Ralph Bagg was chairing the meeting, who also was chairing the meeting today. I was out. So he doesn't chair a meeting, I can assure you that. He is not a chair. A cabinet member does not chair a meeting. They answer questions at a meeting. They have a legal and strategic responsibility to deliver the corporate message which is planned. That's why we're writing to him in the way we are.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take planning decisions. He just guides and takes strategic decisions on behalf of the council in a way.
Yeah.
So it's the way we're talking to build an understanding. If we wouldn't ask the chair of planning here, and I understand what you're saying, if you thought it was the chair of planning, that'd be inappropriate.
So just to be clear, he is cabinet member for planning and regeneration.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly what this falls into.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for the
I
time.
know all the
So if you want
gentlemen in.
a quick say.
Just that possibly if we were to accept the invitation, would it be to the public neighbourhood development?
No, we don't. No, we're finished with the public sessions.
Okay.
Yeah, this will be one the ones we have in here with the members of the working group and our consultants. Our members, before we take the vote, would members be happy for Catherine and I to draw this up? So Robin has proposed it, seconded by Lisa.
Could I just add, we've had 3 amendments to Robin's proposal, so we really ought to vote on the amendments.
Right.
Well, which last one was Lucy's?
There was one from Lucy, which I think was commenting on the difference between the spoken and the written
Yes.
answer. So we ought to vote on it, adding that to Robin's proposal.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that first?
Right, take that one
So
first.
so if we got on that amendment to include that,
Right, so Lucy proposed the amendment.
Yeah, I
I'm
propose it.
Robbie, could you take?
I propose the amendment, just to add in that there's a clear realisation of a change, in the difference between the written response and the.
Thank you. Have a second for that, Ryan, thank you very much. Robin,
I'm very happy to take all the amendments
okay,
and make them as a standing motion. I think they were all.
yeah, no,
really
we can, but because it was already
yeah,
proposed and seconded.
Yeah.
We do need to vote on the amendments
we
first.
must be guided by Steve.
Yeah, I know.
So Lucy's amendment, everyone's clear on, all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you very much.
Thank you. The second amendment was from John, which I think was about asking for evidence of what is successful and what is not successful.
I think that was the original part of Robin's proposal to ask evidence of non-material planning reasons, and then we.
That's where John was asking for the more
Right,
from other.
Asking for the positive side, what are the ones that got over there? And what they've done
and that was your proposal, John.
That's my proposal.
Your amendment proposal. We have a second for John, seconded by Anthony.
That's good.
Councillor Ralph. Thank you.
Do you want to vote on that?
Anyone? Yeah, all in favour? Unanimous again, thank
And
you.
the third one was actually from Robin again, which was
sorry.
invitation.
I think Jane.
I wasn't in favour of that one, so I think it makes us look a bit sort of on the.
Sorry, I missed that, James. You weren't in favour.
I wasn't in favour of councillor Harvey's amendments. I
Right,
think it makes us look,
I said unanimous.
so I'm not, I'm voting against.
Right, so any against? Thank you, Jane. No abstentions. My apologies for that.
Thank you. And mine, I didn't.
Right, then Robin's
To invite them.
suggestion
Missed.
that we should invite the cabinet member to a meeting of the Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan
Thank you.
Group Working Group, seconded by Lisa. All those in
Yeah,
favour?
good idea.
That is unanimous.
Thank you. And then the vote itself, right?
And then the main vote,
Robin said and the amendment. Sorry to do it that way.
That's fine. I'm
Yes, I am. I will read.
So Robin's proposal, all those in favour,
As amended.
as amended.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's unanimous.
marvellous, isn't it?
Thank you very much. The other items, of course, on this question, we asked why we're not always advised of applications in a timely manner. They came back and said that legally parish and town councils have to be notified 21 days before, but this has effectively been changed to 28 days. I think
Yeah, that's before the decision.
Yeah,
So if they do it in the last 4 weeks before the decision agreed date, the chances of the public ever finding out about it are thin.
yeah. I think at the moment, let's do that, it's something probably for future.
Yeah, I mean, time was we used to get the first 3 weeks of the 8 allowed. And that gave us a chance at a second bite. If people saw a site notice and came to a decision. We haven't.
But this is something we could raise at the next quarterly forum, if and when it ever takes place.
I think there is an issue here. I mean, it's to a less than great degree, if you've got a parish that might consider 3 applications in 6 months, maybe sometimes it's very small within a year, to Buckingham, which has multitudes, as Catherine knows more than anyone.
180.
Exactly. I think that they need to start to granuate their responses accordingly. I think the question would be, what is it in the other town councils? And does this work in the other town councils? Because I cannot imagine Cheshire, knowing councils I know in Cheshire, being quiet about this. And I can't imagine the Woodlands being quiet about this. And I definitely know Aylesbury wouldn't be quiet about this. But I do think that we need to ask them and whether they feel this is in keeping with the principles which they voted on unanimously of the parish charter, which should be their guiding light on their interactions with town and parish councils. Because if it isn't in keeping with the spirit of that application, it's disregarding us. That's how disagreements grow, and that's how misinformation starts, and that's how mistrust ends up being the case. So I think that's the way that we should approach it, because if they can't say that it's in keeping with their own charter, which they voted on unanimously, which they said is a live document when they voted on it, I would question it's probably died long ago, but from my experience, but it's only got, we should blow life back into it on the basis like we bring it back to life, because I do think that that's what they voted on. It's the policy of the council. So
Yeah, could I suggest this might be something that we should ask the North Bucks parishes planning consortium to look into? And I think you've got a meeting at the end of this week.
Yeah.
I mean, whether we wait to their response.
Well, we'd pay to be a member of them.
Yeah, I think if Anthony's ready to take a tenure of that, I'm very happy Anthony will do it marvellously, and we may get what I would call synergy there, because there's many of the feelings, but we are different to a small parish.
Yeah, I mean, a number of the parishes, through the chair, number of the parishes speak about things that go on in their parishes, but it is clear that in some cases, there's only one or two planning applications going through at any time. They still have a lot of the same problems we do, or it is perceived that they have that, but ours is just magnified, I think, by the frequency of the applications that we look at.
Yeah.
And I'll certainly bring it up. I mean, it's all part of a piece with other aspects that we'll be talking about.
Lucy?
Just in terms of kind of the feeling of many of the residents of Buckingham, they feel as though Buckingham has become a dumping ground for housing needs. I think there are a lot of people, well, I know there are a lot of people from having spoken to them, that feel that because Buckingham is such it's very well located in terms of transport links, and it has a lot of space, or had a lot of space, and a lot of the people of Buckingham feel as though we're being used as a dumping site, as I said, for housing needs. You know, the Shire needs to provide how much housing for somewhere, and people of the town feel that we're being used.
That, Lucy, is why we have a neighbourhood plan. It's why we are revising it, and we put out all these scenarios, acknowledging we are going to have to take more housing, but asking people where they'd like it to be.
Yeah.
This is exactly what this has been all about, this public consultation. So, but no, thank you. It's a good point, Robin.
It might be an additional thing. I wasn't at town council, and I hope somebody informed you at town council. I was here, but I wasn't. I was over there, like in the camera, and drinking coffee. But I think there is a change in the government's land supply. Before it's gone from 5-year land supply, and we need to establish what that actually means, because
that is coming up at the next meeting.
And I think it's something maybe that if Anthony's good enough to get some synergies and clarity around that, because it will make a huge difference in the way that future developments are agreed, but not how developments which have already been passed, because law doesn't work retrospectively, as the chairman well knows. So anything that's in the tank will be under the old 5-year land supply, and anything following on might be considered differently in planning terms. And I think having an understanding around how that's going to work to help you in your decisions would be really good, I think.
Yeah, we have the neighbourhood planning working group, and our consultants have been quizzing Buckinghamshire Council on what their housing needs will be, and they cannot give an answer at the moment. That's right up until Christmas. John?
Curious as to which item on the agenda we're currently at.
We're on this discussion, page 33 of 36. This is to revisit an application before term, sorry, page 32. Why are we not always advised of applications in a timely manner? And it's just.
Oh, I thought we dealt with all of these.
Ballooned on from that a bit.
No,
so what we've decided is that we've asked Anthony if he would raise that item be a NBPC meeting later this week. Question 3, why is an undrafted site notice added to the document list well in advance of the actual posting of the notice, which gives us false impressions? And they came back, but what they're saying basically is they're not necessarily going to continue with the public notices, but they'll notify close neighbours by letter. Catherine, I think you suggested this can be quite impractical.
Well, I mean, a lot of us live on the estates where our houses actually back onto other houses. Do they count as the neighbours, or is it just the house each side? It may be the house opposite if you're going to do something substantial to the front. You know, like covering your driveway with an extension.
What if it's a owner of the property, doesn't actually live in the property, so
Well,
are they going to get the
any
letter?
rented house, I mean, there are quite a lot of rented houses and
Ridiculous.
not living anywhere near, even in the town. I mean, given that the cost of a stamp is a near £1.
Yeah.
For a letter, I mean, it's not cost effective to send letters to the neighbours.
Definitely not.
If the response was at the moment, the majority of neighbours are consulted by letter, not site notice, this practice only occurs in the legacy Aylesbury Vale district and will stop soon when we swap over to neighbour letters across the whole of Buckinghamshire Council area. And this will resolve any issues this may be inadvertently causing. So
It's going to cost us a fortune.
That sounds like a ridiculous waste of money.
It's a waste of money, considering they're talking about being broke.
John.
I think we need to go back to them with a question, which is what qualifies as a neighbour?
So
What qualifies as a neighbour? And also when it's something where there's a lot of footfall, like in the middle of the town centre. A lot of people would have a view on that, even if they don't actually live in the town centre. You know, in a sense, we're all neighbours of Villiers Hotel, if you like, because we all see it. And it has an impact on the whole town. So I'd like some clarity as to what neighbours means, and why are they not adopting the route whereby the applicant is responsible for the notice, which is what I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 years. You give the responsibility to the applicant. Here's a notice pro forma. You get it covered with plastic, or even cover it with plastic themselves. Certain of them saying, here's the size where you'll be putting it on.
happens in
licensing.
Licensing applicants have to put up their own notices.
Well, no, you don't. Why can't I do the same?
There is a precedent, Thank you, John. Lisa.
Thank you. I would like to know if they did any kind of research or consultation, how they came to that decision that this is going to be a more effective way of reaching people than getting the owner or the person that puts the application in to put the notices out. So did they do consultation, or what business plan did they go by to come to that decision? Because that's going to be an expense that's going to we're paying for.
Can I just add, one of the bits that John mentioned, I don't know if it helps, is that in their answer, they do say there's certain occasions when stamping notices are still required. Although sometimes if I read them, just flick through them now, but it does mention that there is that. My understanding is, and I may be wrong, but my understanding is there's a legal requirement either to do statutory notices or written notification. And the legal requirement is that they must do one or the other, and that they can choose which they do. I may have misunderstood that, but I do believe that is correct.
The statutory notices are listed building applications, some conservation area ones, if they affect a public right of way. Okay, but I mean, they are listed there, and those are the ones they have to put in the paper. So they put them in a print size that is almost impossible to read without a magnifying glass, and they do not sort them or put in bold even the application number or the parish. So you've got to work down that much tiny type, plain spot the Buckingham. It's really not helpful. And that's even when they remember to the Buckingham Neighbourhood and on the Tame one.
Thank you, Robin.
When you read that out, Chairman, the words which were used is by removing it, it removes the problem, which suggests that it's like not treating the patient solves the disease. So I think that as a case of really badly written, not that I'm a great person for writing, period, but it reads nonsense to me. It's like saying stop doing something, you won't have a problem anymore. And this is a service. So if you follow that analogy down, remove planning and don't have any planning rules, and you won't have a problem. Where do you go with it? There won't be a problem because no one's got anything to enforce. So, and going back to that, I think we need to ask them what they meant by that term. By removing it solves the problem, and they haven't presented any evidence that it was successful in South Bucks because they hadn't got this. So what they're saying is, they haven't got it in South Bucks. So the problem is North Bucks having this thing that they inherit from the district council, which we all got used to, which is custom and practice of everybody knowing who was putting a planning application in and giving residents, which is all about the right to comment on their neighbour's application. In most cases, we don't see, do you, many residents storming down here about their neighbours having an extension. It's just a big application. So I think their words are rubbish. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Just a reminder, the wording was, this will resolve any issues that may be inadvertently causing.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. It's a really bad.
Yeah.
It's suggesting there was an issue. The issue was not putting notices. The issue was about the frequency and availability and visibility of them.
They don't want to have to make the trip up from Aylesbury to post.
Well, I know, but
Yes, but so it does mean that the officer in posting it has to come and look at the site. And one sometimes wonders whether they have or just done it on Google Street.
I was gonna, I'm sorry.
Lucy, yeah.
The more cynical among us might say that maybe this is a way for them to detach themselves. Not saying that that is anyone's opinion, but it seems like it's a way for them to detach themselves more from sort of feet on the ground planning reviews rather than just being able to sit and look at a piece of paper. So I think wasn't there, I may be wrong in this, there was an issue with the new inn, the planning application which contained photos
From Warwick, from the new inn in Warwickshire.
from the new inn in Warwickshire, which was approved nonetheless. Is that right?
Yeah, it still went through with.
It still went through despite having photos
Yeah,
of
absolutely right.
completely different
Drawings
locations.
were supplied but weren't consulted on.
Yeah, which to me, especially given the comments that were made earlier, which we've discussed thoroughly about us maybe not using our powers to make call-ins appropriately, it does make a question whether they are using their professional decision-making skills.
Well, and you've heard
appropriately.
from Catherine tonight that we've not consulted on an appeal at Highlands Road, which is
Exactly.
running at the moment.
Yeah.
Jane?
Yes, I mean, I'm very much in agreement on this. That there's something about getting this uniformity across Buckinghamshire. We came across it with charitable collections when they insisted on, we only had to finish by and what time it was ridiculous. And you can only do this. But that was a consultation. So as Councillor O'Donoghue said, a consultation on a point like this would have flushed out the fact that actually where we are, it makes a lot of sense. I do also think that the point we haven't made, and I'm not an expert on it, but judging by local authority finances and local authority staffing and local lack of, I imagine the system is under some pressure. And that some of the stuff we're getting is, and we haven't mentioned that, so I think we ought to.
it's not our problem.
Some of the pressure, some of the problem is because the system itself is under pressure. And some of that problem is that they cannot raise the council tax to actually pay for things that we want them to be doing. So.
Thank you. Lucy, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to draw this. John, you proposed, didn't you, under question 3, what qualifies as a neighbour, but we should answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, given what was being said about neighbours being at the back of you sometimes.
Yeah. Do you want to build into that, the fact they're going to stop these notices will resolve any issues this may be inadvertently causing as a nonsensical statement?
Yes, what I suggested, it didn't make sense, John.
Yeah.
It just seemed nonsense.
And also, I think there's also the issue about the user for licensing. Why can't the applicant?
Yeah.
This is John, we have to, neither of them actually made it.
I just wanted to reiterate, if I may, that my understanding is there's no legal requirement to have these notices.
No, that's what they're saying. They're saying that fact will resolve any issues this may be inadvertently causing, which is.
But I would say the law says they don't have to do it.
No.
And
Except for the statutory one itself.
Yeah.
So John, are you happy with that proposed?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a second for John, please, because we need to wrap this up. Thank you, Ryan. You were first up. All those in favour? Paul, you're quite clear on that.
seeking clarity about, sorry, what qualifies as a neighbour.
Yeah.
Want to seek clarity about what this means, what
Yeah.
factors and responsibilities.
Thank you very much. Andy?
No,
Oh, sorry,
Just voting.
Actually, I'm not about, am I one asking what consultation did they do for this?
Well, that would probably become a freedom of information thing, won't it? Because they're probably not going to volunteer that very quickly.
then we can do it.
Because we're gonna pay for it in the end, taxpayers, so. Well, when,
I mean, if
You
you're
can weave in the word consultation somewhere.
yeah,
If you want to raise that, Lisa,
I think you're right.
All of us, they're not required by law to do it, they don't have to send out touching officers.
but they've
Yeah.
come up with, they're gonna send these to the neighbours. Where's their consultation on, is that best practice for money, like for saving money?
but as Steve has just pointed out to us, this is actually planning law, but they're not required to do
No,
that.
it's just- it's-
Apart from sending it to neighbours, so we can't, we would be challenging government, wouldn't we?
Let's challenge government.
Chairman, if you remember during the course of this
Different story.
period of parliamentary issues, I was going to say democracy, but I didn't want to go that far. They started by regulating planning, and they started by taking documents out and regulations and planning, and it's been a succession of streamlining the planning process. And I suppose this is the victim of the streamlining of the planning process, which has been taken in London, which probably doesn't reflect the feelings of the people in the countryside. And I think that's a fair, maybe everyone wants things to be efficient in business life and whatever, but I'm sure that some of the things that gave us legal rights to do this, probably not seen as that important. So they were thrown to one side in the streamlining of the planning, and the idea that
Because a lot of them own properties, that's why.
a lot of them, a lot of them are landlords
Yeah.
and property owners, aren't they? But we can't say that because we don't know, but we can imagine they might be. They could be, couldn't they?
So Lisa, do you want to pursue this at the moment?
I
Or
was-
do you want to wait and see?
Do we have a leg to stand on? Say that again?
Wait till the documents,
Alright,
what is a neighbour? And then we can say,
Yeah.
well, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
A neighbour might be,
right then.
We have
I'm happy to wait.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Jane might be
Thanks.
my neighbour, on
Thanks,
the other
Ken.
side of town.
So just,
If the chairman would like to notice at the bottom, page 3, if the town council would like to provide details of which applications they consider have not had a site notice, word notice act posted, and officers will investigate further. You may know.
you answer that.
I go for it, usually put not on a spreadsheet that I
Good.
can just lift examples out of.
So we, our members happy we respond to that?
Yeah.
We don't need to vote on that one.
No, we don't.
John?
I'm just looking at the answer to question 4.
Yeah.
And it says, for the avoidance of doubt, neighbour notification bracket, usually individual letters sent to the owners / occupiers of properties that immediately adjoin the site. So that sort of implies that that's how defining what neighbours are, but that is very deficient. Because if it's a privately rented house, something could happen to a neighbouring house that the owner or the freeholder might not know about, but will never see, because the person who's renting it, living for a few months, who doesn't really care, just throws the letter away. Where, how notifying the actual owner of the property, for example. And it says adjoining, does that mean at the back of?
Well, that's the question we're already asking, aren't
I'm
we?
just saying,
Would you
but
know
they're
that?
not very clear with that. I mean, I would say that all their answers are basically dressed up a little bit, but essentially all say, just please go away and let's get on with our jobs.
Yeah.
Well, let's wait.
That's what all the answers are, aren't they?
I think we need to wait until we get an answer from the question we haven't yet sent them. So,
Okay.
and then finally, under this question 5, we were complaining about cancellation of the quarterly planning forums, which all town and parishes take part in. There hasn't been one since at least 6 months. At the time of writing, that was back in July. They said, we apologies, we've had to cancel this event. It was due to change in senior management. A new service director for planning and environment is starting in the new year. And Catherine, you've had an application today, haven't you? Notification today.
I had a decision notification today, and his name is Eric Owens,
Who is the new service director for
so.
planning and
We'll
region?
see how soon we get a.
Yeah, that's right.
Would it be, I mean, has the has the forum dates been released yet?
No, he's
Oh, right.
only started the last
Well, I mean,
2 days or so.
yes.
Oh, right.
I've had 3 decisions and one of them was Mr Maverick and 2 of them. You will be glad to know that Starbucks have got permission for the signage that they've had every 3 weeks. Is signed by Mr Owens, so but he is important because it's him and the chairman who decide what goes to committee.
Would it be worth asking for when available, a timetable of these meetings, as they should occur?
They don't normally set them in advance of the next one. They'll set the next meeting, but they don't normally give one following. We have asked for that in the past. Thank you. That concludes that. Item 7.4, just to notify the Transport, Environment and Climate Change Select Committee next meets on 1st of February. Section 106 Quarterly Update. Appendix B, Catherine's provided. John?
Very illuminating. I'm still confused a little bit. I mean, it looks like in this way that the skate park has cost something in the order of £100,000, which is a combination of S106 and a variety of topics. But the one that's outstanding is Tinsbury Road Clarence Park, where there's £345,000, of which 73K was given to the skate park. What's happening to the other 200, whatever it is, I can't remember, £260,000 of that amount of money? Where is it committed to? What is it going to? Can we find out?
Catherine, can you ask? Sure, right, we can ask.
Because it does say sports and leisure, where's all the rest of the money gone? It may not spend on things, but we do need to know. And the skate park keeps appearing in lots of places. Can we ask exactly how much the skate park costs? Because it seems to be a lot. It's the skate park. Whilst I appreciate all the effort that's gone into creating that sort of concrete slide across the river, has it really cost upwards of £150,000? Concrete, I know, is quite expensive. And the other question they had was about the. Lost it. I'll come back to you when I found it again. Sorry.
Okay, let's just move on then to the final couple of items. Enforcement. Just got one possible one. I have had a couple of complaints from neighbours Freefield about security lighting that's gone up in a property in Moorhen Way. I'm just notifying the committee. I think normally what we would do, we would let the tell the residents themselves that they would need to report it to Buckinghamshire Council under the Environmental Protection Act 1990 if the light could be classed as a statutory nuisance. And that means if it unreasonably and substantially interferes with the use of enjoyment of a home or other premises. And if Buckinghamshire Council agrees the statutory nuisance is happening, they can serve an abatement notice requiring them to stop or restrict the light. We are aware of this. I think we just really wanted to report it to the committee tonight so that our residents know that we are aware of this and let the 2 residents who've raised it, if they wish to request Buckinghamshire Council to look into it. John, you wanted to say something?
I've got another thing to add from the enforcement items we dealt with.
Right, Robert, do you want to add to the lighting thing? Or?
No, it's not.
The
fluorescent lights that are inside the windows of the courtyard on Bridge Street. Have we ever looked into those? You know the shop, the courtyard.
Yeah.
That's opposite the charity shop. There are now 2 fluorescent lights inside there, quite bright. And I think it's a conservation area, given that we didn't allow the ones we objected to, the ones on the shop around the corner from here. It's a similar kind of thing, really, albeit behind glass. I don't know if that makes a difference.
It does.
Makes
is it simply window lighting or is it actually an advertisement sign?
It's an advertisement sign.
It's an advertisement.
Internally lit.
No.
Yeah, it's
no.
too.
The problem with conservation areas, it has to be on the outside of the building and internally lit. So, you know,
It may not qualify.
but I will go and have a look.
But it looks the same.
Thank you. Robin,
But it makes a difference. And
Yeah, I know, appreciate it.
Just for reassurance for members, I expect we've all received a countenance of distress over the area outside here, and I am now in contact with various people in Buckinghamshire Council, and they assure me that the drain out here and the issue to do with waste, and that's now being dealt with in different offices are going to follow it up. So I'm hoping that in the future we'll see a resolution to that problem without pointing fingers, Chairman, and that might move forward. Secondly, I expect you've all equally been questioned about the London Road issue, in the sense that the children are getting splashed on a daily basis. And I had correspondence tonight to the end of quite a few emails which I wrote, very long ones actually, and probably not that well worded, but they're very long. And
so Robin, is that an enforcement matter?
it is. I've asked them to get on an action
Okay.
and enforce the fact that they need to actually clear those drains, because quite frankly, must be annoying all of us that the children in our community are getting splashed by vehicles on the London Road on the way to school, trying to get an education.
I was speaking to Lee about it. He reckons one of the drains has collapsed under there and that's why they're not.
Well, they'll find that out when they go out.
But this, I'm just sorry, just to be absolutely accurate, this is not normally an enforcement matter. This is comes under matter to report damage to superfluous redundant signage, access issues and any other urgent matters.
I was speaking, Chairman, I couldn't stop myself. I'm sorry.
Right. So John, you want?
Yeah, just to say, it isn't just an issue about school children getting soaked. Cars are obviously avoiding that, and therefore driving into oncoming vehicles. It's a vehicular hazard as well, the combination of factors.
Okay. So just to finish on enforcement, unless anyone's got anything else to say, Catherine is going to look into the list of enforcements that are in actually work.
Yeah, I do this once a year, all the ones that we haven't been told a decision on. I send them a long list and say, could I have an update on this?
Yeah, we've got quite a few that I'm always saying to Catherine, have we heard anything on this? So hopefully we get some replies. Right, matters to report. Robin, thank you for what you're saying about the London Road drains. John, just out of interest, I was reading this morning that if you should drench pedestrians, it's a criminal act. You find about £5,000.
Yes, it is.
Because unfortunately, unless you have your phone out recording at the time of being splashed.
Brian?
I will say there was only one time when I wasn't a person involved in this, but I did see a couple of children and they did get soaked and they were actively saying, you know, go on, people were speeding up, so it's not great, but yeah, it's not a good look, well, good.
As you said.
Well, yes, yeah.
I have to say, as a cyclist, the people who decide that they can just motor through potholes, 30 miles an hour, making a barrel wave.
Yeah, Robin?
On these things that need reinforcing, and there's a countenance of many of them in Buckingham round, and it's all round weir drains and stuff. We've got the Gorka Road problem, which again is a school walking problem. Children from Gorka walk to Buckingham School, they've got no free transport. They have to walk to school and they have to walk through that, and invariably the path's flooded, which is a health and safety issue.
It's dark as well.
We're trying to get that moved forward. There's also the issue of the Tidrick Road, which is an ongoing issue in the sense that people come out of that new estate and the drains clearly aren't fit for purpose. And I visited with Councillor Davis some time back to look at it, and what she identified is the water was actually coming out of the telecommunications manhole onto the road. So either that's something to do with the construction of it, it wasn't actually coming out of the drain, it was coming out of the telecommunications, which was much good for internet. And also we've got the ongoing situation in the middle of Western Avenue, where drains are failing in the middle of a housing estate, and they're not at purpose. We also have the written response and the verbal response from the cabinet member to say that they've got lots of resources to resolve these things. The two things don't marry up, and so I think we need to perhaps for an appropriate way to actually, as much as I'm right in getting some things moved forward, I do feel we're failing the residents by not resolving these issues, because they're all vulnerable people.
Do you want us to report this then? Drainage.
And the Western Avenue one.
And Western Avenue. Thank you.
And the Gorkett Road one, which I think anyone would agree that the children of Gorkett Road don't have a school bus and free school transport.
Well, we already have reported this, and action is being taken. So do we re-report?
Well, I think we need to re-report it. We need to enforce it, because quite frankly, we need to get to a situation where we're not going to get rid of this wet weather. It's going to be a factor in our lives, unfortunately, for the foreseeable future. So we do need to make sure children can at least get an education dry.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, I do think that we need to keep on at the Shire Council or whoever it is that we're reporting things to, and keep re-reporting, because if we just take their silence, then they will just presume that we can sort of be ignored. And I think that we need to make ourselves heard for the people of Buckingham, and make them feel like they can put their faith in us as a town council, because people don't have much faith in us anymore. There's a lot of people that don't.
Thank you. Any other matters?
Would it be appropriate to ask for updates rather than re-report them?
Yes.
If we re-report them and start things at the beginning.
The Gorkett Road is
We'll just update.
flooding.
That's absolutely right. Let's ask for updates on these issues, and
the ones we haven't reported.
but we haven't reported.
Thank you very much.
I am doing all these reporting, but I think any more people intend to do it will at least mean that it crosses the
Lucy, what's your?
Just one really quickly, I was going to ask about the speed limit down to the road.
That's fine, that's enough.
Yeah, because people still drive down there at horrendous, like I know it's a 40 limit now, but you've got a huge housing estate, that a primary route, people walking to school, there's buggies, there's children, and it's still a 40-mile-an-hour limit. It's not lit. I know I could see in the 106 agreement, there's money to light up the railway walk. But I don't see why we're not doing Tintrick Road as well, because that's, and you've got the industrial estate there, so you've got people walking and cycling to work, and it just seems silly that it's still.
Is this also section 106?
No, it's not.
It's not in
Lighting further down.
The lighting further down is not there because there are not houses both sides of the road. It's the industrial estate that is the problem, because there is nobody living that side. They will not put street lighting at their expense down the Tintrick Road.
What about making it a 30-mile-an-hour?
They won't.
Big argument, but
We have been there for so long trying to get this. The railway walk is section 106 money, and it will down to eventually spent, but the road itself, and we did get the reduction.
We fought for 3 years for that, Lucy, to get it reduced.
But they will not put street lighting on unless there is housing both sides of the road, even if there's only a path on one side.
What about the old railway house, the old station cottage? Surely that counts as housing.
No.
It's not been inhabited for such a long time.
There's someone living there. They've got a ring doorbell up. There's dogs there.
Yeah.
I hear them rummaging about.
Because it's been a building society with umpteen application station house.
Well, they've got ring doorbells. They're obviously expecting people to turn up every now and again.
Yeah, just to help, Lucy. The answer we get, which we don't agree with, is the fact that there is a contiguous development. They count the land on the other side of the road, which wasn't developed in with the said development on Tintrick Road. And also the police then stated when we met them that they wouldn't support a 30-mile-an-hour limit, even though it's whatever. Now, I wasn't quite brisk with them about that. But what we do need to identify, which is a trigger point, a substantive change. So when there's a substantive change there, when we were having these discussions, and Chairman Memory and those of us who were there, I think Anthony was there, I think John was there, the other side of the Tintrick Road wasn't actually being developed at that point, was it? It was actually, they hadn't started building there at that point. They built that since out. So I think it's worth us having a discussion about whether that's a substantive change that we should ask for it to be reconsidered. And what we also need, and I know John mentioned this some time back, and I'm pleased he did, the salting routes. Because when there's a material change on the road, which there has been now with the developments on both sides, even though it's not continuous, that's a material change to the route. And we should separately seek to ask whether it's being reassessed and sold in route. It may not be this year, it might be reassessed next year, because it will, there's a material change. There's developments on both sides. When we started this argument, it was because there was going to be development. So now it has been developed, and we'll see whether we can get the Sullivan route. And as for the lights, as everyone says, they won't fund the lights, and there isn't a pot of money to fund the lights. But there was a development that's going to take place near what's it called, Foundry Drive, but that's gone away at the moment. So if that ever comes back, that's our opportunity to do it. We're going to have to try to fund it through Section 106 or find a material change, to which I think there is a standard.
Robin, would you like this on the next agenda?
Yeah, I think we need to discuss it in a bit more length. We can't make a decision, but I think we need to discuss it in a bit more length.
Okay,
And make sure the dates that I'm believing are the dates that I think they are.
I'll put it on the next agenda.
Salting is usually trunk roads.
Yeah, but-
up North Barrington Village.
And bus routes.
So
Yeah.
I was informed by the company member in a response to a question some time back, if there's a material change to route, that's reason to ask for it to be added to the salt.
Thank you. We'll do that next meeting, Robin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we need to do it.
That takes us to item 11, shares, items for information. I have none, but thanks everybody for a good, robust debate tonight.
Chairman.
Next meeting is Monday, the 5th of February.
One week for your birthday.
And
Your birthday.
the time is 8:45. Thank you very much.